What if I told you the chaos in your life right now isn't punishment, it's a promotion? Every ancient civilization, from Greece to India to Scandinavia, hid the same pattern inside their myths. Before someone rises to power, they are tested, brutally, repeatedly, publicly. And here's the story loop I want you to keep in the back of your mind. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your current struggle might actually be proof you're on the verge of your next level.
Look at the blueprint.
Hercules doesn't become legendary first. He's given 12 impossible labors. The Buddha doesn't awaken in comfort. He faces starvation, temptation, and internal collapse. Jesus doesn't begin with miracles. He starts with 40 days alone in the desert, tempted at his weakest. Odin doesn't gain wisdom cheaply. He sacrifices his eye and hangs from the world tree for 9 days.
Different continents, different centuries, same pattern. The test comes before the throne. And here is where it gets interesting. These stories weren't written as entertainment. Myths were instructional manuals. They encoded psychological laws in narrative form. The ancients were saying power without pressure is unstable. Before expansion, there is compression.
Think of a bow and arrow. The arrow only flies forward after being pulled backward.
That backward pull, that's the test. In real life, this looks like losing opportunities right before a breakthrough. People doubting you when you're most committed. Emotional exhaustion when you're trying to grow. Isolation just before influence. Psychologically, this is called a liminal phase, the space between identities. You're no longer who you were, but you're not yet who you're becoming. And that in-between space feels like chaos. But chaos is restructuring. Hercules didn't train quietly and then debut as a hero. His trials were humiliating, dirty, painful. He had to clean stables filled with years of filth, capture beasts no one could control, and face monsters alone. Each labor targeted a different weakness: patience, strategy, endurance, humility. That's key. The tests weren't random, they were tailored. Your life works the same way. If you struggle with discipline, you'll be tested with distraction. If you struggle with ego, you'll be tested with embarrassment. If you struggle with fear, you'll be tested with uncertainty.
The universe doesn't test your strengths. It exposes your weak spots so your power doesn't collapse later.
Before Enlightenment, Siddhartha nearly quit. After years of extreme asceticism, starving himself and pushing his body to the brink, he realized something radical. Suffering alone doesn't create wisdom. Awareness does. Then came Mara, the embodiment of temptation, fear, and doubt. And notice this, Mara appears right before awakening. Not years before, not randomly. Right before. In psychology, this is often called resistance at the edge of transformation. When you're about to shift identity, your mind fights to protect the old one. It whispers, "This is too hard. Who do you think you are? Just go back." That voice gets loudest before the breakthrough. Then there's the desert. 40 days alone. Hungry, vulnerable. And the temptations weren't random. They were shortcuts to power. Turn stones to bread. Jump and prove yourself. Take authority without sacrifice. Shortcuts. And this is where modern life mirrors ancient myth perfectly. Right before you earn something real, you're offered something easy, a quick win, an ego boost, a compromise. The test isn't just can you endure pain, it's will you stay aligned when no one is watching. Power without integrity collapses under its own weight.
Odin didn't stumble into wisdom, he paid for it, an eye for insight.
Symbolically, you lose one way of seeing to gain another. Growth requires surrender. Sometimes the universe tests you by taking something, a job, a relationship, an old identity. And in the moment, it feels like loss. But zoom out. You're not being stripped, you're being refined. Gold is purified by fire, not comfort. There's also a psychological reason life feels harder right before a breakthrough. When you begin to grow, you disrupt equilibrium. Your habits fight back. Your environment resists change. Even people close to you may unconsciously pull you toward your old self. This is homeostatic resistance. Systems, including your life, resist change. So when everything feels like it's pushing against you, it may not be a sign to stop. It may be confirmation you've initiated growth. Think about a video game. You don't face the final boss at level 1. Difficulty increases because capacity increases. If life feels harder, ask yourself, have I leveled up? Look at real-world examples. Entrepreneurs often face near bankruptcy before scaling. Athletes hit career-threatening injuries before peak performance. Creators experience years of obscurity before visibility. It's almost rhythmic. Struggle leads to adaptation. Adaptation leads to identity shift. Identity shift leads to expansion. But here's the difference between those who rise and those who retreat. Interpretation. If you see the trial as punishment, you shrink. If you see it as preparation, you expand. Same event, different outcome. Not every hardship is destiny. Let's be practical. But there are signs you're in a trial before ascension phase. You feel called towards something bigger and obstacles intensify. Old patterns resurface aggressively. You feel isolated from people who once understood you. You're forced to choose between comfort and growth. That's the crossroads. And here's the mindset shift that changes everything. Stop asking, why is this happening to me? Start asking, what is this shaping me into? Hercules didn't know he was building legend. The Buddha didn't know he was hours from awakening. Jesus didn't know resurrection was days away. Odin didn't know how far his wisdom would echo. They just endured the test without abandoning the path. Your struggle might not be evidence of failure. It might be evidence of proximity. If your life feels unusually difficult right now, if pressure has increased instead of decreased, there's a real possibility you're not being blocked. You're being built. Power requires capacity. Capacity is built through trials. That's the law. The universe doesn't hand power to who wants it. It shapes power into who can withstand it. The test always comes before the throne. If this shifted your perspective, the next video on transforming pain into leverage is going to hit even deeper. Drop a like if this resonated, subscribe if you're committed to leveling up, and I'll see you in the next one.